welcome to the Unmuted Podcast. My name is Jeff. I'm your host, and this is a podcast where we talk about all things HR, hiring, recruitment, AI, world of work, HR tech, and we try to drop new episodes every Thursday. And these episodes live on our website at GoScaleHR.com. Also on our YouTube channel, which is going through changes right now. And but if you don't know already, you can hit the subscribe button so that you get notified when there's new episodes. Today we have a really interesting topic, and it's about storytelling for HR, which is actually a really interesting topic. One that is personal to me, having done lots of work in employer brand strategy. So we have a fantastic guest, coming on today, and I'll bring her on in just a minute. But I just wanted to just share a couple points first with respect to storytelling. So when we're putting this episode together and the question, some things popped up in my head. And, one thing is that stories have always been a fundamental ways for humans to connect. And so, they serve a similar purpose in a business as well. And so when you start to think about some of the major brands that have come out with some really interesting stories, magnetic stories that have been sort of wrapped into a campaign, you think about companies like Nike, Airbnb, Starbucks to the Human campaign, Southwest Airlines, obviously the popular one, and then HubSpot, and then obviously in Canada, there's others over the years like WestJet. With the April Fool's pranks and things like that. So all of those stories that are shared on, social media and online have always meant to, evoke some kind of emotion and a positive one. And so, when you think about the workplace, obviously the company's mission is the core driving force. But then how do you make it resonate, with every employee? And that's hard to do. And so I think one of the keys is crafting a story that connects the mission to the daily experiences of the team. And so, yes, I understand it's easier said than done. And there's been lots of really, amazing stories and examples out there, but they're all really different and creative, unique. And so we have a guest today, Tovit Neizer, who is going to help us break it all down in terms of storytelling for each. And so Tovit, welcome to the Unmuted Podcast.
Hi, Jeff. Great to be here.
So before we dive into some of the actual questions, that I have for you, can you just tell our audience a bit about
So I help companies, tech companies and traditional boring industries find their UVP, their unique value proposition, find their story and curve it out so it would shine, resonate internally and externally, drive leads, drive talent, and get their story out there to generate a real connection with their offering, between the offering and between the audience. I do that as a strategic advisor, external to companies, as well as workshops, soft skills that are the hardest, like you said, easier said than done. I help them with the tools, but then afterwards, sometimes they feel like, okay, we got it. We understand the importance. We sold, but now we need your help to really do that with us for a while.
And so when you're talking about stories, is it like using all types of mediums like video, print, not print, copy, text, like you're looking at sort of all different types of mechanisms and platforms?
Anything that works, anything that serves the purpose and for that industry. I mean, sometimes, we all talk about AI and talk about tech, but maybe your product, or maybe more to say your audience, is really, really traditional. And this won't work with him. So you want to be part of this sexy game of all these AI and bots and whatever buzzwords, but that won't move the needle. And if you, at the end of the day, month or year, have these KPIs which you want to achieve, try to understand before, am I in the right space? Am I in the right game? Do we communicate by flyers in the mailbox, like snail mail? Do we write with our hand and pen and paper, like cosmonauts in the sky, in above? Or do we send them something digitally? And these are very crucial questions to start with, to know your audience. And then the tools, the platforms, the language, the method It all has to start with them. Everything in storytelling, and I come from journalism. I was a journalist. It all starts with the audience. So who are my readers and who's the topic, the person that I'm going to interview, and then build a story through from there. It's not
Exactly.
about you. You're not part of it. It's not the company. It's not the product even.
So there is a bit of a sort of a science and an art to this. And so I guess my first question is, sort of diving into storytelling for HR is, how can HR leaders uncover and communicate a company's unique story that aligns with its mission and values? So it's a bit of a large question, but I'm going to start with that. Let's just go big or go home. So, what do you think?
I'm going to answer with a big word, which is audit. Sounds
Okay.
boring, but really take a long list, take a white paper, and go around all the departments. Go back in history. When was it founded? Who founded it? Why did they do that? How did it grow? Organically, not organically? What happened? So audit the history, audit the people, speak with them, get to know them. What are the unique features of each department? Maybe there's something holistic that runs through it and you don't even know. And once you're aware of that, this is the thread that you're going to use throughout the story, internally and externally. But start by understanding, what do you have? It's not just that machine or that, I don't know, service that you're offering. You have, human capital. So let's focus on the human and let's speak with them and see. Maybe you have great stories or great individuals that you're not aware of, and they're bringing unique stories that you should put them up front and center.
Right. So I guess it's really about sort of asking and, finding out and just talking to, obviously your people. So there's a term of brand ambassador, which is used, a lot. And so I've used that term a lot, obviously, when I've done, employer brand work. So what strategies can HR teams use to turn your employees into authentic brand ambassadors through storytelling?
A spotlight on them. First, we have that audit, and let's say we have a 1,000 employee company, and we find through that audit that 5 departments each has 2 individuals, unique individuals. One played in the Olympics, competed. Who knew? And one, as a kid, was a performer, I don't know, Broadway kid. And
Okay.
we have these crazy things. Let's first give them the ownership, put spotlight on them, which means, ooh, my company values me. They are interested in what I've done. They listen. They took the time and liberty to research. And now they give me some credit, not just for the pay job, the paycheck that I get and the work that I bring, but for being a human being, bringing more things to the table, and then putting spotlight internally and externally. Internally could be that in their all hands, every now and then they acknowledge someone for doing something in their lives or for doing something in a community, but it has to align together with that audit with the values of the company. And let's say the company wants to promote giving back to the community. So they do that search, they do that audit, they speak, and the HR people should know their employees and come up with 10 people who are doing amazing things, even tiny, but in their community, organizing something, helping, putting up shelters, promoting DEI, but not DEI as the work thing. We have to have that billboard, but doing that in practice and then giving them the stage, and not just this is what he does, blah, blah, blah. Maybe give them 15 minutes of how did you do that? And give us 5 tips on how to do that and how to build community around ideas and around values. And from that, the employee get a sense of he's in the center, and not because he was helping KPIs and doing, bringing more money, but because he's an individual, and it sets a message and a tone for the employees that the company is not only about work, it's about the people. And when we get to know them more on a personal level, and it gets, it improves the ties and the connections. It's more authentic. And now externally, if we'll use them, they'll be brand ambassadors sharing the values, not what the company does, but what it stands for.
Yeah, and I like that because I think it's really easy for HR practitioners and leaders to lose sight of that. Because if they have an organization of, say, 100 employees or 1,000 employees or 10,000 employees, that collective group, they're also different just by virtue of being themselves. And today, more so than ever, people are involved in so much. I mean, 30 years ago, things were a little different. You went to work, you would clock in, clock out, go home, and that's it. And there's nothing else. It's sort of whatever. And now you've got people that have side gigs. They might be involved in some social project. They might be involved, dare say it, politics. They might be in sports. They may have families. They may care for an elder. It doesn't matter what it is, but they all have something that they're doing, in their personal lives, or they share some kind of a characteristic that is sort of different. So I think to your point, get to actually know your employees and put them at the center of it. I think it makes them feel, good and connected to this organization. So, obviously, when I talk about employer brand and storytelling and all of that sort of thing for HR, the first thing that usually comes to mind is hiring. So people always sort of equate immediately the storytelling, employer branding to hiring. Yes, it's much more than that, but that tends to be the first place that people's mind go to. So how can storytelling enhance or be used to enhance the candidate experience and attract top talent? Obviously, it's a very competitive market for various reasons. So how can storytelling be used to leverage?
So going back to the values, they should align with all the process. Let's say your values are communicating well with people, honesty, being personal, human, etc. It has to align with the process. The story that you're telling the employee or the candidate should be very consistent with that, and should also be very holistic. Because if I come to a place that says one thing and then through the process I see they're under delivering, they're doing something wrong, they're saying we care about people and they never call back and they ghost you, I might, of course, I won't work there. Maybe because, they ghosted me, so they don't want me there. But also, I would never say something good about that in 6 months when a friend of mine finds his dream job and wants to apply. So being holistic with your values throughout the process. So it's how you tell the story. What's that email that you craft before, during, and after? If you want to be very transparent, do that throughout the process. Don't just say that, show that, right? I tell that what I do when I do strategic work with companies, especially tech companies, they want to tell their story. It's not about signs and billboards and what you write. It's how you perform it. And I think this is the most important place when a candidate comes and meet that company. He meets and he sees the values and he sees, are they showing up on time? They said they'll do that and XYZ. They never. So why would I mean, this is branding. Why would I share positive thoughts on them? And sometimes I've met a few HR executives that told me, we did that. We performed, we delivered, and we didn't get that person in the company because whatever reason. But that person was so happy with the process that he's now one of our ambassadors without even stepping foot in the company, without even hiring. You have such big effect. There is a power here that's unseen. I mean, I think people miss out on the opportunity. So you have to be holistic with your messaging and show the values, not just say them. We come on time and you never. We care about our employees and you see them shouting in the background, or the way, the language that you write that email. Do you respect their time? If so, make it short, concise, respectful, etc.
Yeah, it's always been a challenge, because I know that obviously being on the other side of the table, being a job candidate, sort of previous life, and then I'm big on the other side of the table, you're hiring, thousands of employees over my lifetime. The one thing that I've observed is that organizations talk about their values and so forth, but they always want to try to position themselves externally as perfect. So they're the greatest organization. There's nothing wrong here, and we're all great. But that's not really real. So I've always been of the opinion that it is okay to say this is what we stand for. Had some bumps in the road, but this is what we've done, and we're still striving towards that. That's a real message. But I've noticed, do you ever come across that where um, they say they're conveying the accurate and real message to a job candidate, but it's not. It's sort of I guess, a bit of a stretch. Well, I don't want to use the word lie, but it's a bit of a twisted view on the reality.
Promising?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like over promising or saying something that is, we stand for A, B, and C, but in reality, after we hire you and you come into the organization, you will realize that it wasn't totally true.
I think the unique examples are the ones that create a genuine and honest process. It doesn't have to be dazzling and a lot of lights and music. It could be very simple but authentic. Like that person might be late for that interview, the HR person or the recruiter, but he would be very candid and tell, "Okay, I have kids. Life is busy. I'm so sorry." That
Yeah.
has to align with giving space to the other person having kids and being overwhelmed with life. So this is a good place to start, by saying this is what we stand for. I mean, we all understand that we have a lot of balls up in the airs, and it's okay. The fact is that it has to be okay later on. I think the worst would be to show up late and say, "This is how we are. We're authentic," and then it's just one way.
Just one way, right?
Yeah.
So earlier I mentioned a couple of companies that actually resonated with me in terms
Yeah.
of, doing a really good job at storytelling. Now they're all large organizations, but which is fine. Do you have any examples, of companies that have done a really good job at leveraging storytelling to create stronger employee engagement and brand loyalty, like on the employer side, if you have been?
One brand that I want to tap onto, similar to the examples that you gave before, I'm going to start with Dove, the soaps. What they've done, and I think most of companies can do that and leverage, even if they're tiny and not even consumers. It's telling someone else's story that has, in a way, nothing to do with their product. It's only being focused and concerned about their users. And the users are teenage girls and moms, and they really dive into that connection there and moved the spot, shifted it to them. They don't mention their product, nothing about their values as a company, but it comes as a conclusion. That's what I understand. When I go to, I don't know, shoppers and I see their products, I'm thinking, wow, they talked about me as a mom and my teenage girl watching social media and the dangers and risks. What does that have to do with beauty? But it does. It does. So it's selling without selling, and it's knowing the audience and shifting the focus. And it's a huge message because they're spending so much money. Think of the campaigns that smaller companies are doing, and the only focus is not them, not what they're selling, not their ask, but their audience, creating and generating, coming up with real, honest, and genuine connection. Another thing is, I recently moderated a panel at an HR panel, and there was a guy from Canadian Tire, and he was talking about their ads and how they put the spot on their customers, unique families, unique origin, immigrant families, an Indian family celebrating Diwali. So it was shot within their home, not in a studio. So being very genuine, putting the spot on them, going into their house instead of the shop and getting
Yeah.
those products in as a buy thing, as a byproduct.
Yeah, Canadian Tires. I don't want to say anything negative, but you're right. So some of the commercials, so especially around sporting events, like Olympics or World Cup of Hockey and all of that kind of stuff, I think are great. The problem with them is, I think this is a good conversation piece, is that when you go into their stores, you don't have that same feeling as you do when you're watching some of the videos. So that's the miss. And but I'm just gonna put it out there. I mean, there's a name for Canadian Tire. I'm not going to say it right here, but but I understand what you're saying. It's about the audience, and that's that fundamentally key.
I
Is
can
there any?
tap onto like
Yeah.
smaller brands, not even brands, companies that have their all hands event and
Mhm.
spotlight someone who did something, or give him 5 minutes to promote his kids' fundraiser at Scouts or whatever.
Right.
Just highlight that. Instead of just what have we done, each one tells how much money they generated to the company. No, like you said, we're individuals. Luckily, these days we have more than just jobs and more than just 9 to 5, go home, maybe paint a fence, and that's it. We care about things and they're intertwined. This is what we bring our life and work. They're intertwined. So if the company gives us a chunk, a tiny chunk of the all hands, of the midly week, of the offsite, spotlighting employees who are doing something, not employees, let's not use that, individuals in the company. So then we nurture better relationships between the employees, between the humans in the company, and the company, in a way, sending a message that it's enough, it's important enough that we will drop off 10 minutes of this important meeting and we
Mm.
will focus on you and what you do. That has nothing to do. It's just like Dove talking about other people not showing their products. This is you talking about your employees, letting them lead the conversation and do something that doesn't have to do with work, but with values and genuine connection.
Yeah, I think you mentioned, that, yeah, I think that's sort of loud and clear. If listeners can take one thing away from anything that you've talked about in the last, 20 minutes or so, um, uh, what would that be?
Okay. In one of my workshops about active listening, bringing a lot of tools from journalism and what I've done before, I give them 4 letter words that I invented. The word, it sounds like milk, but it's spelled with an E. So milk, MELC. And that's what
Okay.
you should bring, milk, with an accent. That's what you should bring to any meeting, any connection with other person, candidate, employee, you coming to us for a raise, whatever. So milk is memory, empathy, listening, and curiosity. Memory, meaning you talk for 10 minutes and at the end, I just forget everything and I ask a question. We just repeat something that shows you didn't care, right? You didn't listen. Empathy. When you tell me something, not only do I listen, but I react and I hear you. I kind of feel what you said. So memory, empathy, listening. That sounds easy. We have these, we're born with our ears. We're not really using them well. Listening, active listening, reading what you do. Are you interested? Are you mad? Did you come with a baggage? Are you happy? All that. And curiosity. I mean, journalists with no curiosity should resign, and human beings in general, when they meet people, they should have that childlike curiosity that you come and you're happy to soak in all the stories of other people or to dive deep and dig deep with them to find what's interesting about them. So when I'm hiring, let's say someone new to the company, I want to be there. Out of the 20 minutes, I want to give him, I don't know, maybe 5 that he speaks. I'm like that. And I tap onto what he says because I remember, because memory, and I empathize and I express this empathy. So milk, got milk, milk.
No,
And
I
I,
actually really like that a lot because, 'cause there was a lot in there that I tend to also, encourage too. I don't use it in the acronym, but that's good. I'm going to take that. So I'm going to, put your name next to it. But, it's really interesting because, when you're talking about curiosity, I mean, if someone comes to a conversation and they just start talking about, themselves, and they don't ask any questions about, the other person, they're not showing any genuine care for that person. That conversation will just go downhill fast. I mean, there's going to be no connection, whatsoever,
but it's like
and it's
skiing
amazing.
parallel, right? You go down fast when you have those skis together, parallel, not creating
Yeah,
any connection ever, not meeting.
and that's interesting because I think what you just talked about is actually so what I've been able to do in my career in terms of networking, work. building a relationship with people and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really important. So I really want to thank you for that. So that was terrific. So I learned a lot. I have some notes here. So thank you for that. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. And so we will share, Tovit's information, contact information, all of that in the summary session of the podcast. So once again, the Unmuted Podcast is normally a weekly podcast episode talking about all things HR tech, hiring, recruiting, world of work, AI, which is obviously popular nowadays. Anything to do with that realm. Episodes live on our website, GoScaleHR.com, and also on our YouTube channel as well. So don't forget to share your comments, if you want to hear from you. And so we have a major announcement coming up in 2025. Can't say what it is about the podcast, but it's coming next year. So if you want to know about it, you have to hit that subscribe button. Yes, I sound like a regular podcaster, but you know what? I'm learning, right? So anyway, so like the episode, you're going to share your comments, please. And Tovit, thanks for being here.